Now I've got a story for you. It perfectly captures everything that's broken about the power grabs in Washington, D.C. A man whose identity has remained confidential, connected to a covert operation that targeted Nicolas Maduro, is now facing decades in prison. Not for participating in the operation, not for dragging him out and getting him back to the United States, but for allegedly placing a bet and making $400,000 tied to the operation to get Nicolas Maduro.
A story just came out before the show came on about one of the guys they sent in to grab Maduro out of Venezuela actually bet on that and made $400,000, and the DOJ has now arrested him. One of the guys that went into Venezuela to do that operation back in December.
Yeah, so the reason I wanted to talk about that is because here you have an example of the DOJ saying, you know, this is not fair. We're going to go and we're going to throw the book at this guy, right? Yeah. I'm not necessarily saying what he did is right. However, every single day in Congress, you have multiple members of Congress that are engaging in insider trading. We had an actual ban on this that we pressured leadership to bring to the floor, and we're going to get a vote on it. But Hakeem Jeffries, went and told the Democrats not to support this ban, and we were receiving own pressure from our own leadership on pushing this forward. And yet you have a member who went on this raid, which, by the way, our military members don't get paid a lot. But the member that goes on this raid places a bet, and yet he's facing, I think, up to 50 or 60 years in prison. So there is no double standard of justice, or there is no fair justice in this country if you have members of Congress getting away with it, and this guy doing it every day. So on an unpopular take, I'm going to be asking for him to be pardoned. I'm going to ask that he they disgorge his profits, and that he basically go back to the military, because at the end of the day, again, we have proof of this happening every day. Nancy Pelosi makes 17,000% returns on her stock investments. Yeah, she's not going to jail.
I totally
Democrats
agree.
and Republicans, 600%, not in jail.
And that list, when they show that list of the most corrupt, everybody is making a fortune. That's a multicolored list.
A Democrat-led council is throwing the book at him. Reportedly, they want to put him in jail for 50 to 60 years. But here's where it gets really interesting and frankly infuriating. Because while this man is being prosecuted aggressively, members of Congress continue to trade stocks with private access to information the public simply doesn't have. And when lawmakers actually tried to stop it, when a bill was pushed forward to ban congressional stock trading, it was blocked. You see, these people will always do what's in their best interest, but if you try to get into that club, you know the club George Carlin talked about, it's a big club and you ain't in it. Specifically, House Democrat leadership led by Hakeem Jeffries pressured members not to support the ban to stop insider trading. They want to throw this soldier in jail for profiting on what they considered insider information, but they don't want to block it for themselves. So let's just lay this out clearly. One man makes money tied to a high-risk military mission, and now he faces decades in prison. Meanwhile, elected officials, your elected officials, routinely beat the stock market, sometimes by staggering margins, and nothing ever happens. No charges, no investigations, no consequences. Tell me, is that real justice? Of course it's not. It's a huge double standard, and they get away with it all the time. And it's on the left and the right. This is not a partisan issue. They all do it. So in today's interview, we're going to break it all down, the raid, the arrest, the trading bill that never made it through, and what this says about accountability in America. So today I've got an interview with an expert in trading, and we're going to break all this all down. The raid, the arrest, the trading bill that never made it through, and what this says about accountability in America, or more specifically, in our government. To talk about all of this, and joining me now is Ross Gibbons, who's been following this story very closely. Ross knows the world like nobody else. All the stuff about insider trading he can talk about. He knows exactly how the members of Congress, like Nancy Pelosi Ilhan Omar, who suddenly is broke, and Tim Walz are profiting off of the backs of hardworking patriots. Ross is a 20-year veteran of the stock market. He has worked as a broker, a fund manager, and vice president of investment management for J.P. Morgan Chase. He is the leading authority on insider trading. And just before we chat, I want to say, when I first heard Ross explain exactly how this is happening and how it's actually legal, it made me want to vomit over and over and over again. I want you to know as well all these different secrets. So I've asked Ross to come personally to teach you guys completely for free how all of this works, because we just can't get into it all here. He's putting on a live event this Wednesday, May 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's completely free, won't cost you a dime, where you can learn the little secrets that many people, just like Nancy and all the other ones, are using to profit off the backs of hardworking, tax-paying Americans. I've got the link in the description below so you can sign up, or you can scan the QR code. You don't want to miss this. And again, it's free. In case I didn't make that clear, it's absolutely free for the Fanfare family. You can also visit insidertradeswithbarry.com to reserve your spot. But before we talk about all that, Ross, you're on the front lines of all this corruption. Tell me exactly what's going on. How are these people, especially in our government, our congressional people, our senators, how are they getting away with this? I mean, us regular Americans and other ones like this guy who got accused of some stuff are facing decades in prison. Well, yeah. Ilhan Omar can fudge. That's a whole different story. How did she show 30 million on a balance sheet and then come back and now I don't have any money and nobody's asking any questions? So I just want to toss it to you. Tell me how they just walk free from all this.
Well, the big secret is they're the ones writing the laws, Barry. And when you write the laws, you kind of set up some loopholes for yourself. And this has been a theme we've seen from Congress for decades. I mean, even if we go back to Obamacare, they specifically wrote in that they are outside of this system. It doesn't apply to them. So it's really no surprise that insider trading, even they love to hem and haw and say, look what these Republicans are doing, or look what these Democrats are doing. They're all doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And, Pelosi has been the biggest test case of this, because everyone from the President of the United States to Elon Musk to members of Congress and all of your viewers know she made hundreds of millions of dollars insider trading. I can give you dozens of examples of her taking advantage of things she knew. She never got so much as a fine. And so that really set the bar for Congress going, well, here's, the Speaker of the House, one of the most publicized or public figures in Washington for a decade. Nothing ever happened to her. Mm-mm. Why should I not do the exact same thing? And they've been doing this for years. They'll continue to do it years going forward. And all this fluff over insider trading bans is never going to get passed.
It's funny. There seems like there's two things that they 100% agree on. They can fight over everything else, but if it ever comes up where they're getting a raise, it's always voted in 100-0. Always. There's no exceptions. All hugs and everything. Hey, we gave ourselves a raise. And the fact that they're doing this insider trading, nobody ever talks about it. Even it seems like the news people stay away from it. I wonder how much they're involved. So tell me more about how the average working patriot, the average working American, the average retired American can do these exact same type of trades that the congressional and senators are doing, and how you'll be teaching those strategies on Wednesday.
Well, that's the big silver lining to all this. And people ask me all the time, Ross, does this make your blood boil? I'm like, well, it used to, until I started buying the same stocks they're buying. And I promise, you make 20, 30 grand right alongside them, it's not going to bother you either. And that's the big thing I don't think most people know. We all know they're doing this, but what the average American doesn't realize that all these trades are public information. They are required, thanks to the Stock Act, which passed back in 2012, to report their trades. And this is another of Congress's usual tricks. They passed this Stock Act. They spun it as something's going to end insider trading. It didn't ban it whatsoever. It just put requirements for them to disclose those trades. And there is an online database, several of them, that are free to access, where you can see exactly what they're buying. And so what I show people how to do, and what we've been doing with our members for almost a decade now, is just looking for these really obvious opportunities where several people are piling into this obscure stock all at once out of nowhere and following along. And, you know, there's tricks to it, which is what I'm going to show on Wednesday. It's nothing complicated. It's really just common sense, but you want to look for what we call outlier investments, right? So if somebody's buying NVIDIA or Google or Apple, we all own that in our retirement account or a mutual fund, right? But, you know, when you've got this senator on the, say on some defense military or defense contracting subcommittee, right, that awards these big DoD contracts, who rarely buys stocks, and suddenly they go in really heavy on some little obscure military defense contracting stock, that's when you want to follow along. And, you know, this extends even past politicians. Like, I don't think people realize you can see when CEOs and CFOs and public company board members are buying. Like, we got into a little pharmaceutical stock, and this thing was tiny. It was like 40 cents a share. And they're in the middle of these drug trials. It's traditionally a pretty speculative stock, but right before the drug trials, the results are scheduled to be released. 11 people at this company bought the stock, Barry. The CEO's getting in, the CFO, the chief medical officer, the guy running the drug trials puts half his annual salary into it. So it was really obvious. And so we recommended this to our members. We bought in, and it went up like 300+% in a couple of months. So, you know, listen, we're talking about the stock market. There's always risk involved. I don't want to dumb that down or play that down any, but you know, this puts you in front of some of these huge opportunities, and it's all free. It's all available. So we could have a 2-hour show now, and I'll show it all to you. But I think the easiest thing to do is just we do these training events every quarter. So we have one coming up this Wednesday at 3. It's online. Anybody can attend, and I'll show you all the secrets and how this works.
You see, one of the things I think a lot of people who aren't in the game the way you are and the way these governmental people and CEOs aren't, the idea of insider trading is that it's illegal. And I think the ignorance of this is what you're doing and what I've done and other people I know have done. Any regular American, it's okay to trade on this information. Can you explain just really quickly what's the difference between illegal insider trading and actually following what these guys are doing?
Yeah, of course. So illegal insider trading means you are using information, private, non-public information, so stuff you'd learn as a CEO of the company or a member of Congress about to pass legislation that's going to push these stocks up, and using it to profit for yourself. Now, what they're doing, a lot of them is, in fact, very much illegal. The tough thing is, how do you prove it? There has to be a smoking gun. There has to be some text chain, or they have to text someone, thanks for letting me know about this. I'll buy this stock. It has to be so cut and dry. And it's very, very difficult to prove a wink or a nudge or a nod, or you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's why they never get prosecuted for it. This one guy they even found, they did a massive investigation, found him guilty of, in fact, insider trading as Congress. And the ethics committee, they ruled his punishment would be he has to sell the stock. You shouldn't buy that anymore. It's already tripled, So that's insider trading. It is illegal, but it's very, very hard to prove. Even Martha Stewart, who is who most people think of, did not go to jail for insider trading, Barry.
Right.
She was found innocent. She went for perjury. Now, what we're doing is following public information. We are following the publicly disclosed trades of congressmen, of representatives, of CEOs and CFOs. That is 100% above board. In fact, all the information we're pulling comes from federal public websites. So it is far, far above anything. It is beyond legal. In fact, I consider it to be ethical, considering you and I are paying these people's salaries. And I think the least they could do is hand us a stock tip here and there so that we can follow the same investments they are. So there is nothing illegal about this. It is just following public information.
It's funny because as you go through some of this stuff, I understand there's a 30 or 45 day delay before they have to make it public. Why isn't this information more readily available to the public? Why isn't it instantaneous? How come the average American can't really log on and instantly see what Nancy Pelosi or somebody else is doing.
Well, tell me how many government programs run smoothly, efficiently, and as you'd like them to, right? And that pretty much gets you your answer. You're right. Congress has as much as 45 days to disclose this. They don't have to wait 45, but they give them room. They wrote the law. Shocker. Some come immediately. Now, the corporate executives, though, the CEOs and these guys are far better than the politicians. They only get 2 days. So if they buy Tuesday, they are required by law to report that by Thursday. And most of them do it the same day. So we go over this in a training event, but there's this little SEC rule that essentially is their protection from insider trading. As long as they file this one form inside of 48 hours, they're essentially immune from being processed. So they do it immediately, right? They buy the stock, have their lawyers send this in. It gets uploaded to the Securities and Exchange Commission website. It's available to all of us instantly. And so we show people how to find these, how to filter them, and how to look for just those, 3, 4, 5 no-brainer opportunities that tend to appear every month or so and follow along. So it is available to everyone, but it's just not easy to find. It's not easy to do. And so that's, again, why we do these training events, to empower people to use what I think is one of the best edges you can possibly have as an investor. But we cover all of this in the training event. Like I said, we could talk for hours on this. I've been doing this for a decade. But yeah, I encourage people to register for that. I know you usually put the link below the video. Even if you cannot attend live, go ahead and register, because we're going to send you all of our research on our most recent insider pick. So we're going to give you one for free. You'll see who's buying. You'll see what's available to you, all of our recommendation. Hopefully you make some money on the thing, but it's really eye-opening to see what's available to you for free as an investor. And we'll send you out the recording as well after the event.
I have a quick question. It might be off topic, but I know you know this. With everything going on with Iran and the turmoil around the world, are there certain niches or verticals that you say these are safer than others based upon the volatility that you're seeing in the market?
Yes, there's things that are just not connected to it. So when you look at the closure to Strait of Hormuz, what's that done to energy prices? There are stocks and sectors much more affected by that. It's like I would never buy an airline stock right now. 30% of their expense is fuel, and that just doubled. It could double again, right? So that's something you want to avoid. If they're all buying a little pharmaceutical company in late stage drug trials, oil's not going to have a big effect on them, right? Okay. So there are things safer. In energy stocks, we've done very, very well in the energy sector because we saw the insiders buying. Look, guys that run oil companies know this stuff. They got boots on the ground on the Strait of Hormuz. They know exactly what's going on. They knew 2 months ago that this was not going to end quickly. This was going to cause a backlog of crude inventories for 6-12 months into the future. Exxon and Shell and BP, they're making record profits. They knew what was going to come. That first little 10% spike the first day was just the tip of the iceberg, right? They know this stuff better than you and I do. And so that's a great example of them getting in, seeing it, and going, well, look, the CEO and a CFO and a board of these companies are putting millions of dollars in. They clearly think this is the start of something big, and it has been, and that's paid off handsomely. So there is some of that, but you really don't have to dive that deep. I mean, you're following people who know both the equity market and their business and their industry better than you could ever dream of. And it's just following people with better information, right?
Well, Ross, I know you got to go. You got a bunch of trading to do on your own as well as get ready for these webinars. So I want to thank you for joining us today and getting people pumped up about attending the webinar. And here's the bottom line. It's obvious you've got a system where insiders are winning and everyone else is left playing catch up. But as Ross just laid out, you don't have to stay on the outside looking in. If you want to understand how these trades actually happen and understand deeply how they happen and how you can legally spot and follow them, Ross is breaking it all down in a free live training. So Ross, I am going to tell people how to get there so they understand. It's on the screen right now, insidertradeswithbarry.com. It's this Wednesday at 3 p.m. Ross, thank you very, very much.
My pleasure, Barry. Always great to talk with you.
Don't forget, if you'd like to join Ross in the webinar, it's happening this Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. The link is right below in the video description, so just go ahead and click it, get registered, and take advantage of it while it's still free. And if you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to like and subscribe and share this with someone who you think could get value out of listening to what Ross Givens has to say.